Hello and welcome back to the SKUSavvy YouTube channel. Today we're going to go through a quick video on vendors and what you should be doing with these vendors. So here we have a list of vendors which has come over at the time that we've imported our Shopify store. So those vendors have come down from Shopify. Now a quick note, if you are using suppliers versus vendors, what you should plan to do is to set up the supplier as a vendor and also set up the brands or vendors as a vendor. That is going to enable you to set up those items. So for a supplier, you might have multiple brands, but that supplier is still going to be containing all of the various products that the supplier's brands that they carry have. So set those up as such. Now here we're looking at a specific vendor with all kinds of products, and as you can see, you have the price, unit cost, and margin information. Now, if we were taking down this vendor from Shopify and we update the unit cost here, that is optionally also sent back up to Shopify to update the unit cost on that product for a vendor. Now, if you're using the basic Shopify, you're going to have just one vendor per product. And so SKUSavvy is looking at the same thing, and that's where you can get the cost update. If you need to make new associations with a vendor and the products that they carry, certainly you can come into the items and just go ahead and add a new item here, which will be added to the vendor. If you need to make a bunch of updates, what you can do is just to create a new purchase order. And so we'll go and create the new purchase order. And now we're going to select our vendor. And now, as you can see, I've already got the vendor item selected. However, if we uncheck this, and now we just start adding products to the purchase order, which do not currently belong or are associated with that vendor, then you'll be able to make the association at the time that you're placing the purchase order. Another method you could use is to import the items. And by importing the items, you can upload a CSV file. With that CSV file, if a product has not yet been associated with a vendor at the time that you import the products, it will automatically be associated with the vendor. So just to give you an example, if we go ahead and we add a few products to this purchase order, now if we go ahead and enter a change to the cost, you can see here that this is now updating the unit costs for the product carried by our vendor here. Now I am using serialization, so lot numbers, serialization, as well as unique vendor SKU can be updated here. If we go back up to the top of the purchase order, of course, you can have an external ID, delivery date. And I also do want to point out that there is notification to the vendor. So if you are placing purchase orders with a vendor and you have this notification turned on, now let's go back in and look at a vendor here. So if we have the notification turned on, first of all, you do need to have this email communication preference turned on to email. And you have to have, of course, an email associated with the vendor for that to work. What that's going to do is send out an email to your vendor. They will be able to click into the email and see the vendor portal. So let's go ahead and look at that. Okay, here we have the email that goes out to your vendor, and you can set the from email within the settings. So you can see here the items that we're trying to order. Now, if your vendor clicks into this link, we're now going to get the portal pulled up, which is going to show our preferred delivery date, and your vendor can view what you're trying to purchase as well as make any kind of notes. And they can also get the purchase order directly to print out, and you can customize the purchase order. They can also make adjustments to quantities or costs, and then that will also submit back to you so that you can make approval of that. So let's go back into SKUSavvy here, and now we have our purchase order. We're not going to go into the purchase order. There are other videos for that, but let's go back into the vendor directly and then take a look at what we can get from this vendor profile here. So again, of course, we do have the items, margin information, and from here, if we wanted to go ahead and just get all of this information from the vendor in terms of our price, unit cost, how many we've got, can take an export directly from the vendor here. So this is going to have a lot of the different fields. Now, if you wanted to, you could also go over in and view all of the purchases that we have made with this vendor. And from here, we can also get a export of all of these purchase orders from the vendor. And as you can see, there's quite a few different fields here. You can, of course, get the latest cost information, min-max, and average cost as well. And so that's going to make it very easy to view all the information for a particular vendor in terms of unit costs. One final note on vendors, if we go ahead and look at a product, let's say we're trying to find what vendors carry a specific product, you can head into the product itself. Now we're within the variant here and we can look at vendors, so we can see across our vendors what the different unit costs as well as margin information there, and currently what we have for any kind of orders. I also should point out that anywhere you see the expected here, if we click on that, this is going to show all of the current associated purchases for this specific product. So anywhere that you see that, you can open it up and get all of the purchase orders right now, or transfers in that case. Additionally, on this vendor specific information here, we can see the order history. And from the inbound side, we'll be able to go ahead and again get all of the exports of our purchases for this specific vendor. So I think we'll keep it there, just very simple. Wanted to go through the vendors and how you can leverage these vendors. Again, they do pull over from Shopify. So make sure that you connect your Shopify store, get your SKUSavvy account. And as always, we appreciate your support on the channel. Look forward to seeing you on the next video.